Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Natalia Moczulska and this is the news. In December, public opinion was shaken by information about the acceptance of bribes by some MEPs, including former Deputy Leader Eva Kaili, from representatives of Qatar and Morocco in exchange for lobbying for their interests in Brussels. One of the threads of the scandal is the activities of Abderrahim Atmoun, Morocco's ambassador to Poland. According to information revealed by Gazeta Polska, the diplomat led, among other things, to the Senate's involvement in strengthening Polish-Moroccan relations. Last May, representatives of the Senate, together with Speaker Tomasz Grodzki, visited the Kingdom of Morocco at the invitation of the chairman of the local Chamber of Advisors. The purpose of the visit was to convince an important Arab country to become more involved in supporting Ukraine. No gifts were received, other than the usual ones reported in the Register of Benefits from the Moroccan authorities, not from Mr. Ambassador Atmoun. From what I am well aware of, I think the senators have a separate parliamentary team of some sort of friendship with Morocco, and this is also an issue. This is also a question of why this is the case, because breaking up these teams is a precedent. But why Morocco specifically? This is a question for Speaker Grodzki and his Senate majority. Despite the seriousness of the situation, the opposition is taking a lighthearted approach. I suspect the ambassadors of various countries, including Morocco, are probably in contact with many politicians, so I wouldn't focus particular attention on the Senate here. Former MEP and president of Fighting Impunity, Antonio Panzeri, was arrested in December 2022 on charges of accepting bribes from Qatar. But as it turns out, not only. Panzeri was also alleged to have received expensive gifts from the Moroccan Kingdom's ambassador to Poland. The whole affair is very embarrassing, very much evolving for the European Parliament, and embarrassing for the European socialists, and also for other politicians from other groups. Ambassador Atmoun's actions are currently being scrutinized by the Internal Security Agency. The Foreign Ministry is also investigating the matter. At the moment, the case is being investigated by our services, and we are waiting for the results of their actions. The Moroccan ambassador, as the kingdom's representative in Poland, has diplomatic immunity. If it turns out that he acted to the detriment of Poland, and there is evidence of this, then you can start proceedings and apply for the annulment of this immunity. But it is not the ambassador who renounces it, only the country that sent him. It rarely happens that the sending country hands over the representative to the justice system of another country. It generally takes him home and carries out the relevant procedures there. The diplomat was supposed to lobby for European Union countries to recognize the Western Sahara area as an integral part of Morocco. The ambassador did not comment on the case and did not address the questions sent by the author of the article. Day 322 of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Today in Lviv, President Volodymyr Zelensky, together with Polish President Andrzej Duda and Lithuanian President Gitanas Nausėda, signed the joint declaration of the presidents of the Lublin Triangle. The document is an announcement of further military support for Ukraine from the signatories. As part of the agreement, Poland decided to donate Leopard tanks. Talks between the Lublin Triangle presidents focused on further aid to Ukraine in the face of the ongoing Russian aggression, as well as support for Kiev's European aspirations. President Andrzej Duda expects other countries in the community to follow Warsaw's lead and also donate tanks to Ukraine. Lately, we decided that the moment for Poland to decisively support Ukraine has come. A company of Leopard tanks will be handed over as part of coalition building. Another aid package for Ukraine was also announced by Berlin. Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock during a visit to Kharkiv yesterday promised that electricity generators, among other things, would soon be delivered to Ukraine. We are steadily increasing military support for Ukraine, howitzers, air defense systems, the IRIS-T system, and the recent decision to transfer mortars are confirmation of my words. In addition, I have brought with me another support package. Both the energy infrastructure and the military will benefit. I have no doubt that we will receive German Leopard 2 tanks. Moreover, I think the German government understands the seriousness of this decision. I thank the German government for all the decisions it has made over the past 11 months. Minister Annalena Baerbock played a big role in approving these decisions, for which I am grateful to her. The last important decision remains, the decision on the delivery of tanks. Continued attacks by Russian forces on Ukraine also pose an indirect threat to the security of its neighbors. At this point, the likelihood of an escalation of the conflict remains low. However, as a preventative measure, NATO and the European Union have begun working on a task force to protect critical infrastructure in Europe.
We want to look together at how to make our critical infrastructure, technology and supply chains more resilient to potential threats, and to take action to mitigate potential vulnerabilities. This will be an important step in making our societies stronger and safer.
We have seen the sabotage of Nord Stream that has shown that we need to be ready and that we need to confront this new type of threats. So today we are launching an EU-NATO task force for resilient critical infrastructure. This is a task force where our experts from NATO and the European Union will work hand in hand to identify key threats to our critical infrastructure, to look at the strategic vulnerabilities that we do have.
Meanwhile, fierce fighting for Soledar continues in eastern Ukraine. Control of the city will give the winning side dominance over the mine tunnel system there. The tunnels allow a dynamic transfer of forces behind enemy lines. The problem for the fighting soldiers is the low temperatures, which cause frostbite. How many Russians die per day varies because it depends on the intensity of the enemy assault. If they storm actively, then we kill them in whole groups. If they are sneaking around, we do not attack with continuous fire. Instead, we shoot at their bases. The fighting for Soledar is part of the Russian strategy to take Bakhmut. With the front line running nearby, life in these towns is extremely difficult. For months, their residents have been deprived of gas and electricity. Humanitarian aid arriving here from deep inside Ukraine is the only hope for survival for many. I sleep in the same clothes I walk in. We haven't bathed in 4 months. Soon the frost will invade my kitchen and toilet. We try to come here as often as possible, but our courses depend on the size of the scheduled transports. Part of the cargo is collected directly by volunteers. The rest is the help of anonymous donors. People also help financially. The Russian invasion of Ukraine has led to the destruction of many Ukrainian cities. Thousands of people have become homeless. In Zaporizhia, thanks to the financial commitment of the city's residents, some buildings were rebuilt to provide shelter for those most in need. Earlier today, a large number of U.S. Army tanks and military vehicles began arriving at the Dutch port of Vlissingen, ahead of their transport to Poland and Lithuania later this year as part of moves to strengthen NATO's eastern flank.
Here in this at this location in Vlissingen, there's about 1,250 pieces of military equipment coming into this port. We've got a couple other ports that we're using across Europe as well, but for this operation here, it's the largest of the 3. And it's got a lot of the tanks and track vehicles coming for this brigade. So we're very excited about this operation. I think anytime the U.S. does an operation, we have several messages. One of that is partnership that for our NATO partners here and deterrence for our adversaries across the world. So I think it's a great opportunity for us to partner with not only the Dutch, but any other NATO countries that we are working with and partnering with for this operation.
The equipment includes large numbers of M1 Abrams tanks and Bradley fighting vehicles from the 2nd Brigade Combat Team, 1st Cavalry Division of Fort Hood, Texas. Dutch armed forces are helping with marine security and guarding the port area where the vehicles will be housed before they continue east. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Please stay tuned for Poland Daily Weather, Poland Daily Business, and some of our other programs. But for me, it's have a wonderful evening.